Quick disclaimer, information in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended to be treated as medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare team before making changes to your diet, lifestyle, supplementation, or medication.
A big shout out to Sarah, Dorothy, Lynette, Mary, Sarah and Sharon for today's questions, which I'm sure you're going to find helpful too.
Welcome to Type 2 Diabetes Talk, the place where we chat about what really works to treat type 2 diabetes and prediabetes naturally with nutrition and lifestyle. If you're looking to optimize blood sugar and A1C, lose weight, reduce medications, and improve your overall health, this is the place to be. Now, here's your host, Type 2 Diabetes Nutrition Specialist, Dr. Jetta.
Hello and welcome to another Q&A episode answering questions directly from you. All about real-life challenges managing blood sugar, insulin sensitivity, food choices, and natural treatments. We'll be covering everything from whether it's possible to rebuild insulin sensitivity and enjoy occasional treats, to blood sugar spikes from infections, whether sugar-free drinks are safe, and how to build a better breakfast when you're trying to reverse diabetes with food alone. These are incredibly valuable questions, and if you have been wondering about any of these things yourself, you're going to find today's episode both practical and empowering. Remember, if you have a question yourself, please send it in. Head to type2diabetestalk.com/message and leave an email or voice message so we can include your question in a future Q&A. First up, we've got a question from Sarah. Sarah asked, is it possible to rebuild insulin sensitivity so that one day I can enjoy some occasional treats again safely? I have type 2 diabetes and so far I'm managing to regulate with just diet and exercise, and I'm terrified by the thought of going on insulin one day. I am also currently pregnant, so having to be extra cautious about my carb intake, and the extra restrictions of what I have to avoid while pregnant has been very challenging. I don't live in an area with great access to healthy food options and don't have much time during the week to cook or grocery shop. So absolutely, rebuilding insulin sensitivity is possible, and it's certainly a powerful goal to work toward. The fact that you're already managing your blood sugar with diet and exercise alone is a really strong sign that your body is responsive. That gives you a great foundation. Pregnancy definitely adds another layer, and you're right to be cautious. Hormonal shifts during pregnancy, they naturally reduce insulin sensitivity, so what you're feeling is valid, but keep in mind that this reduced sensitivity during pregnancy is usually temporary. Once your hormones stabilise postpartum, insulin sensitivity often improves again, especially if you're continuing with your healthy nutrition and movement. Long term, improving insulin sensitivity comes down to multiple factors, particularly being proactive with your nutrition and lifestyle. And I'm not going to go into detail here as we're covering specific strategies to improve insulin sensitivity next week in episode 94, so be sure to listen to that. Now, you mentioned treats. And we often encourage people to include treats from time to time. That's perfectly normal. Enjoying the occasional treat isn't going to send things completely off course because consistency is more important than perfection when it comes to blood sugar. Plus, you can actually change your definition of what a treat means for you. Instead of a sugar-filled ice cream, maybe a few pieces of dark chocolate could be enjoyed, or a decadent piece of chocolate mud cake that you'll make at home. On that note, if you're one of our members, we have an incredible chocolate mud cake recipe. The point is, having a treat isn't off limits. You also said you're dealing with limited access to food and time constraints, which are real barriers, but there are always ways around this. For example, using frozen vegetables and stocking up with proteins like fish and meats you can freeze. Or perhaps you can consider ordering food on the internet and trying to carve out more time on the weekend to batch cook would be a really good strategy to focus on for you. And lastly, I want to say being terrified of insulin is a common fear, but people with type 2 diabetes, a lot of them never go on insulin. Insulin as a medication isn't the common first step, so by being proactive, you've likely got nothing to worry about. Next up is a question from Dorothy. Dorothy said, I have type 2 diabetes. I am on 15 units of insulin daily, but my readings 2 hours after breakfast are anywhere between 8 and 12. That's 144 to 220. And after lunch, they are the same unless I test 3 hours plus. I can never get below 8. And to get that, I have to walk for at least 1 hour. I've been a diabetic for 20 plus years. I weigh 68 kilos. That's 149 pounds. Do not eat sweets or drink soda. I see an endocrinologist and all she suggests is further medication, which does nothing. I stopped taking tablets because they cause terrible heartburn and chronic constipation. My last blood HbA1c was 8.4. Any suggestions? So Dorothy, an A1C of 8.4 tells us that your average blood sugar is elevated, which of course is obvious given your high post-meal levels. Since you're already on insulin and had a poor experience with tablets, one key area to look at is your food timing and composition, particularly carbohydrates. Because even if you're not eating sweets or drinking soda specifically, there may still be hidden carbs or starches raising your levels, especially at breakfast and lunch. For example, things like fruit, cereal, toast, rice cakes, crackers, and even low-fat yogurts can spike blood sugar. So it's often not about eating healthy in the traditional sense, it's about eating in a way that works for your blood sugar. So I would try keeping a food diary for a few days to a week and then drilling down into that to determine what's going on for you. And you certainly might want to try lowering your carbohydrate intake more significantly and testing to see whether those after meal levels are coming down. So many people see the biggest improvements by focusing on protein, healthy fats, and non-starchy veggies, things like eggs, avocado, meat, fish, leafy greens, mushrooms, zucchini, to name a few. And that's the other critical component is the quality of food you eat. So do a pantry audit and see how many packaged foods you're eating. It may just be a bit more than your body needs, so shifting quality can make a real difference in budging those numbers as well. And if you need more help with your nutrition and troubleshooting this, consider joining us as a member where you have all the resources you need and you can use the monthly member check-ins to further troubleshoot specifics. And also, one other thing, since walking helps, that's a really good sign. Your body is still responsive to lifestyle, so try taking a short 10-minute walk after each meal because we know this helps lower those post-meal spikes more effectively, and that's going to help lower your A1C as well. And you can listen to episode 89 for more on some walking strategies that you could use. Lynette asked, I asked my doctor about Berberine. She said to take it every other day because it's hard on the liver, ? Well, here's what we know from the research. In clinical trials where people take standard doses of Berberine, that's usually 500 milligrams 2 to 3 times daily, there's no consistent evidence of liver damage in people with healthy liver function. In fact, some studies suggest Berberine actually helps improve fatty liver markers and liver enzymes in people with metabolic syndrome, pre- and T2 diabetes. So evidence does not support the idea that standard doses of Berberine are hard on the liver. In fact, multiple meta-analyses and randomized control trials show it either improves or does not alter liver enzyme levels, even in people with non-alcoholic fatty liver or hepatitis B. Rarely, very high or long-term dosing may slightly stress the liver, but this is not typical. People on other medications should be aware of possible interactions related to liver enzyme metabolism, and anyone with existing liver disease should check with their doctor, of course. But overall, saying Berberine is hard on the liver at the recommended dosages isn't supported by evidence. Mary asked, what about protein powder? Should I be using it? Great question, Mary. When you have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, getting enough protein is very important. It helps with blood sugar stability, appetite control, muscle maintenance, reducing inflammation, and improving insulin sensitivity. And many people don't get quite enough, especially at breakfast, which is where protein powder can come in handy. Research shows us that whey protein powder in particular is a rich source of amino acids and bioactive substances, and it's been shown to have unique benefits for managing blood sugar, so it can make a great addition to your meal. And in fact, even small amounts of whey protein before or with meals can enhance your body's insulin response, reduce blood sugar spikes, and improve hormonal responses. And you can use whey protein as a meal replacement as well, making a protein shake. Many of our members who use whey protein have seen these benefits and also improved energy as well. And we talked a bit about whey protein in episode 68. But the answer is yes, protein powder can be very helpful with science-backed benefits for diabetes, but it's not an essential requirement for everyone. So the answer is protein powder can be very useful with science-backed benefits for diabetes. Just be mindful though of what's in the powder, because many are loaded with sugars or artificial sweeteners and additives and a whole list of ingredients that's just not needed. So if you head to our website, we have a whole section on the best diabetes supplements, which also includes info on the best types of protein powders as well.
Dr. Jetta's T2 diet program isn't just based on research, it is the research. The only online nutrition program worldwide proven in a gold standard randomized controlled trial to lower blood sugar and A1C, reduce weight, and decrease medications. Stop guessing and start progressing. Join the only program backed by world-leading science and proven to help you get the best results. Visit type2diabetestalk.com/programs.
Sarah asked, what is the verdict on the sugar-free/zero sugar sodas and energy drinks? Are they just as dangerous for blood sugar and type 2 diabetes? This is a great question, Sarah, and it's one that sparks quite a bit of debate. Sugar-free or zero sugar sodas and energy drinks don't raise blood sugar directly because they don't contain actual sugar. That means on paper they're better than sugary drinks when it comes to blood glucose control. If you're comparing a regular soda with 40 grams of sugar to a zero sugar version, the sugar-free one is definitely the lesser evil. But most of these drinks use artificial sweeteners like aspartame, sucralose, saccharin or ACE-K. And there is evidence suggesting that artificial sweeteners, like the ones I just mentioned, may still impact blood sugar, gut health or insulin sensitivity, along with contributing to weight gain, not weight loss as may be expected. And they can also increase cravings, especially when consumed frequently. There are some sugar-free drinks that now use sweeteners like stevia, monk fruit or allulose, and these are more suitable options because these sweeteners don't have the same evidence as those artificial sweeteners. So for more background on safe sweeteners for diabetes, go and listen to episode 49 where we covered this in detail. Energy drinks, these can be a bigger concern. The artificial sweeteners are obviously the first concern, and then they're also loaded with caffeine and other stimulants. And for people with type 2 diabetes, that can potentially raise blood pressure, disrupt sleep, and increase insulin resistance over time. So they're not ideal, especially if you're having them regularly. So occasionally, a sugar-free soda or energy drink likely won't hurt or be dangerous, but they're not health foods. And relying on them daily might make it harder to truly improve your metabolic health. So in general, we do encourage people to avoid them. Let's hear a testimonial from one of our members.
Brenda said, "My turnaround is all thanks to the people at DMP. Less than a year ago, I weighed 160 pounds, more than I ever had pregnant, and my whole system was out of whack, including high sugars. I started running, but it wasn't enough. Thanks to the information on your website, I am down to a healthy 110 pounds and feeling much better without any meds. Thank you for showing me that way and for giving my 3 young children back their active, healthy, and happy mama.
Donna said, I am very concerned about my blood sugar spikes. It normally stays around 200. That's around 11 for our metric listeners. But sometimes it spikes as high as 400 to 580. That's 22 to 32. For no apparent reason, she says. I do have an infection in my blood. Could that be the reason? Please, if anyone has an idea as how I can get this resolved, please let me know. Well, Donna, I really feel for you. Those kinds of blood sugar spikes are not just frustrating, they can be frightening. When you're seeing numbers around 200 consistently and then sudden surges to 400 or even 580, that's a red flag that something serious is affecting your glucose regulation. Now, you mentioned you have an infection in your blood. That's really important because, yes, infections can absolutely cause blood sugar to skyrocket, even if you haven't eaten anything different. And this happens because your body releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline to fight the infection. And those hormones trigger the liver to release more glucose into your bloodstream. They affect your blood glucose regulation. So even if your food hasn't changed, your blood sugar can still go up. And the higher your blood sugar stays, the harder it is for your immune system to fight the infection, which can create a bit of a vicious cycle. As for how to get this resolved, you really need to speak to your medical doctor urgently, especially if you're still fighting the infection. High blood sugars in this range can become dangerous quickly, so speaking to your doctor about this is very important. Once you're out of the acute phase and your infection clears up, then it's worth looking deeper into your nutrition and lifestyle to help bring your numbers down more consistently. But right now, start with getting medical attention right away, as those numbers shooting up to 580 are dangerously high. Our last question comes from Sharon, who said, help, I have diabetes type 2 and my recent HbA1c blood test came back as 43. I'm trying to reverse the diabetes without taking medication, just healthy diet. At the moment, I have porridge and fruits for breakfast, but would like to try plain Greek yogurt with fruit. Just not sure how much yogurt should I use. Any advice would be welcome. Just to clarify, a HbA1c of 43 millimoles per mole translates to 6.1%. Now, let's talk about breakfast, because this is often the most important meal to get right when it comes to blood sugar. You mentioned you've been having porridge with fruit. While that's often seen as a healthy breakfast, for many people with pre- and T2 diabetes, it can spike blood sugar significantly. Porridge and fruit is actually one of the worst breakfasts many people can eat, because a typical serving of porridge and fruit can easily add up to 40 to 60 grams of carbohydrate, and that's enough to cause a significant blood sugar spike, which won't help your efforts to reverse your diabetes. Switching to plain Greek yogurt with fruit is a smarter move for blood sugar stability. Greek yogurt is higher in protein and lower in carbs. And as to your question on how much to eat, around half a cup would be a good serve with around 11 grams protein and 8 grams carbs, depending on the brand. But yogurt and fruit alone, it's still not a great breakfast meal, as you ideally need more protein. You could add some nuts and seeds to balance this out. And for more ideas, I'd definitely suggest listening to episode 68, where we looked at protein for breakfast in detail. And you might also want to listen to episode 84 on what fruits to avoid, because choosing fruits wisely is going to be very important for you as well. So that wraps up our Q&A for today. As always, the questions you send in help so many others who are going through similar experiences. So thank you to everyone who shared. If you have a question, don't be shy. Please send it in. Head to type2diabetestalk.com/message and leave an email or voice message so we can include your question in a future Q&A. Remember, small changes done consistently can lead to powerful results. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and most importantly, keep going. Until next week, Dr. Jetta, over and out.
Thanks for tuning in to Type 2 Diabetes Talk. Please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. And for episode replays, episode notes, and more, visit type2diabetestalk.com. New episodes are available Tuesdays, 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time, or your time zone equivalent. Thanks again. We're truly grateful to be a part of your life and help make a real difference.